Thank you for listening and supporting the Daily Memphian. Sign up for one of our many free newsletters and breaking news alerts at dailymemphian.com/email to receive the latest local news stories impacting our community. Our weekly newsletters cover everything from sports to arts and culture, business, food, and more, along with daily updates of all the news we publish each day. Sign up or manage your email preferences at dailymemphian.com/email.
I'm Bill Dries, reporter for the Daily Memphian, and this is On the Record, a special edition of our podcast, this time offering a more concise review of the judicial races on the August 4th ballot to go with the comprehensive review you will find at dailymemphian.com. That story comes to about 3,800 words among myself, Alicia Davidson, and Julia Baker, and well worth the full review in my humble opinion. Consider this a kind of Cliff Notes version and more of an overview with some items not in the story version of this. So use both to find out what you need to feel like you've made an informed choice. As we reviewed last podcast in our total ballot overview, 70 judicial races on the August ballot with 119 candidates. That's about a third of the 344 candidates total on the big ballot. A little less than half of the 163 races are judicial races on that same ballot. But there's a way to narrow this down. For instance, in 13 races, the incumbent judge is running unopposed, meaning they have effectively won their races. 8 of the races are for open seats on the bench, meaning the incumbent judge now in office is not seeking re-election. And those 8 races have the most crowded fields of attorneys, magistrates, and judicial commissioners because it's very hard to upset an incumbent judge. If you're an attorney who practices before that judge, it can also be awkward to challenge that judge. So who's leaving the bench? Circuit Court Judges James Russell and Jerry Stokes, Criminal Court Judges Glenn Wright, Bobby Carter, James Lammy, and John Campbell, who is now a state criminal appeals court judge. Also 2 General Sessions Criminal Court Judges, Tim Dwyer and Chris Turner. The 6 contenders running for Turner's Division 10 seat is the largest field of any of the 70 judicial races. But don't forget, 26 of the 70 races here are retention races for the state appellate court judges, where you are voting to retain or not retain the judge in that position. Second largest field is the 5 running for Glenn Wright's Division 2 of criminal court. Part of the making of this story has been tracking down who has run for office before. In the process of running those down, we kept coming across a whopper of a judicial race from 2010, not a big ballot year with the regular slate of judicial races. In 2010, there were 5 special judicial races on the ballot, including General Sessions Criminal Court Judge Division 7. The race for Division 7 followed the retirement of Judge Ann Pugh, and it drew 20 candidates. 7 of those contenders from that large field are on the ballot here 12 years later, including Bill Anderson, the incumbent who won that crowded race all those years ago. Beating an incumbent judge is difficult, but not impossible. Just ask Michelle Alexander Best and Lee Wilson, both running for General Sessions criminal court positions this time, not in the same division against each other, though. Best upset incumbent Judge Charles Gallagher in the 1998 big ballot, and then lost on the next big ballot in 2006 to Karen Massey. Best has been trying to get back on the bench ever since, challenging Massey unsuccessfully in the next big ballot in 2014. She was part of the field of 20 in the 2010 special election we just talked about, and she has applied for appointments to numerous vacancies. In the case of Wilson, he was appointed to the General Sessions Criminal Court bench in 2009 and then lost his bid for the rest of the term of office in one of the other 2010 special elections. Now, upsets of incumbent judges who have been appointed are not as rare as you might think. It is seen by some attorneys watching the fields in the different races as something just a bit less desirable than an open seat with no incumbent. The judicial races are important, especially in a year where 2 of the 3 banner races are about criminal justice reform. These candidates are just as dogged in their pursuit of votes as their non-judicial brethren. But because of the limits on campaigning, judicial candidates rely heavily on sheer name recognition to carry the day with voters surprised by the races and not really sure how to judge those who want to be judges. The judicial candidates really only can say that they will be fair and impartial by the Judicial Code of Ethics. So, we have included links in our guide to the judicial races to endorsements by the Ben F. Jones chapter of the National Bar Association and the survey of Memphis Bar Association members on how they rate the candidates in terms of qualified, not qualified, or no opinion. Finally, you've heard about ballot fall-off, the idea that the further a race is down the ballot toward the end of the pages you scroll through on the touchscreen machines, the more likely voters are to skip or just not see those races. And these races are at the bottom of the ballot. Looking at the certified results from the last big ballot in 2014, where the highest turnout general election races on the ballot were for district attorney and county mayor, each of those races drew a turnout of 144 to 145,000 voters. Again, races at the top of the ballot. The highest turnout in the trial court races on the same ballot, but much further down, that was in Division 3 of Circuit Court, where that race drew 133,439 votes. That's in the win by the late Judge DeArmey Bailey. The lowest turnout in the trial court races that were contested on that ballot was a little over 110,000 in the Division 2 probate court judge race won by Karen Webster. A little bit different behavior in the judicial retention races for the state appellate courts in 2014. About 124 to 125,000 voters in the retention races for the Tennessee Supreme Court. For the other appellate court judges, the Court of Criminal Appeals and the Court of Appeals, a turnout of 112 to 116,000 Shelby County voters. Ballot fall-off is real. That's the overview of the judicial races on the August 4th ballot. August 4th is Election Day. Early voting is underway now through July 30th, and we continue to track it daily on Twitter at bdries, DRIESDM. The Daily Memphian's election coverage, including our guide to the judicial races, is not behind our paywall. It is free. I'm Bill Dries, and this has been On the Record.